Welcome, friends! It is I, your host, Skyf, and it's time for the Overwatch Hero Guide to Zarya. Zarya is a really fun tank to play. She takes a lot of work to really understand how to do well with, but once you understand her, she can do a lot of work. And her ultimate? Oh man, this is the setup to team kills. Thanks to Zarya and someone else, an entire team can be wiped and victory can be happened very well because of that. Now, as always, we're going to go over introduction, who she is, how you play her in combat, her mode duties, tips and tricks with her, just stuff like that to get a good sense of her and just explain some ideas on how to play her, which will help players have a better idea of how to just do work with her. This is more geared for beginners. Advanced extra players, you probably know all this, but if there's anything you don't know, well then maybe this will help you out there, and if there's things that I did not say so in the comments so that viewers have more they can learn from. It's always helpful for people to have comments to read more on. So let's get going. So who is Zarya? Alexandra Zaryanova. Age 28, grew up in post-war Russia after Yamnik Crisis. This experience made her swear to become someone who could help her people. As she grew up, she trained hard and became one of the strongest women in the world. Zarya was expected to break all the world records in an upcoming world championship in weightlifting, but the Yamniks woke up and attacked her village. So Zarya withdrew from the competition and returned home to join her local defense force. Zarya sacrificed fame and fortune for her people. By the way, that Tesla cannon? She ripped it off a tank to fight the Yamniks. That's how badass she is. Holy crap. So Zarya is a tank, which means she can take a lot of punishment and deal a lot of punishment. She's there to fight for the points, she's there to defend the points, she's there to be a distraction. That's what tanks do. The difference between her and some of the other tanks is that she can only defend so much, she can only bury herself and one other person. So she's good for small fights and saving some people, which is why I prefer her as a second tank, not the primary tank, because the big shields are just way helpful for that. But Zarya can do a lot of work, especially with that ultimate, as I'm going to say a few times, because that ultimate can set up team kills all day, every day. Zarya's abilities. And first up, you gotta talk about the energy. So what happens with Zarya with her barriers is, when she uses them, every time to take 4 points of damage, it gives her 1 point of energy, max 100 energy. Each point of energy is an extra 1% damage, so going up to 100%, that's double her damage. She loses 2 points of energy a second, and energy will be explained as we go forward. So first up for her weapon is gotta be the Particle Cannon Beam. This does 95 damage per second of the beam. You gotta constantly aim at your targets to hit them with it. Someone like Tracer can actually move through the beam really fast and not take damage. You have to keep it on them long enough to do the real damage to it. Though it's a big beam, it does not penetrate enemies. It only hits the first target it hits, and if you can get fully charged energy, you're doing 190 damage per second. So it can do a lot of damage as long as you can keep it on your enemy. The other fire for it is the alternate fire, and that is the Particle Cannon Splash Bomb. So this is 45 damage per splash bomb, it shoots at narcs, you can shoot it over things, and it deals less damage further from the blast. It's good for hitting groups or just hard to hit targets, and fully charged, of course, double, 90 damage. Now let's talk about her barrier. Now when you hit left shift, that'll put up her particle barrier. This is the personal barrier, 200 HP shield, lasts 2 seconds, protects her from certain status effects like Mei trying to freeze her. So Mei's starting to freeze you a little bit, put down the barrier, you're not freezing anymore, you can just fight Mei with no problem, then you should be good there. And damage dealt to the barrier, of course, builds up energy. The other one is Projected Barrier. This gives your ally 200 HP shield, lasts 2 seconds, also protects them from certain status effects like Mei again, and damage dealt to the barrier builds up energy. Something important to note about these barriers are, they can save you from big explosion attacks. Like, say, Riptire from Junkrat or D.Va's Explosion. The barrier, though has 200 HP, no damage goes through it. It just kills the barrier, so it's really nice to use to save you on a teammate. And lastly is, of course, her ultimate, Graviton Surge. This is a bomb that pulls all enemies nearby to where it lands. It deals 22 damage over time for 4 seconds, and it's just great for setup for ally ultimates, or to keep the enemy away from the objective in overtime. And this is what gets a lot of kills for your team. You put that Surge out, and you have Hanzo have his Dragon out, or you have McCree do his ultimate, or maybe a Reaper ultimate. There's so many ultimates that work so well with Zarya's ultimate that you can wipe out teams with her. It is glorious. Zarya in combat. Now, in my opinion, you don't have to agree with this, but this is what I think about Zarya, and that is, she is good as a second tank. I feel she needs like a Reinhardt or a Winston or just something big in front of her to just block a bunch of the damage while she's trying to build up her damage with the barrier. Once she's filled up on her energy, she can do so much work with her team, but she can't save a ton of people at once. All she can do is save herself and one other person with her barriers. After that, that's all she can really do, and then just killing people and just staying alive. Zarya is a very dangerous hero in this game, but only after she's built up, and that takes time, and that takes another tank to take up the damage while she's building up for that. So while you're behind that other tank, or flanking the enemy, you're firing off splash bombs and trying to build up energy with the barriers through allies and yourself. And even when you fill up on energy, you want to keep using splash bombs until you find an opening where you're not going to get killed too quickly, so you can just run in there and do a bunch of damage. If you are going to run into a bad situation, make sure you have barrier ready to keep you alive for hopefully 2 seconds, so you can do some work and maybe kill some people. Zarya can wreck people, and if you can get a pocket medic or just someone to keep you alive during this fight, you can do so much work. You get an Ana ultimate during a fully charged energy, you're going to kill everything. You get a Mercy charging you up or healing you while you're doing all this, you're gonna kill a lot of things. Just the right heroes with you while you're doing this, you can do work. Zarya is amazing with other people. She can do work on her own, but she is freaking amazing with other people on her backside. Probably the only other thing to mention is just her beam, and that is the damage on it. From the tip to the base, it's the same damage no matter how far away you're from the enemy. So it's good to learn just the distance on that and being able to aim it at whatever distance you are. You don't need to be up close to somebody. You can shoot somebody really far away and still do good damage as long as you're paying attention to your distance. Mode duties with Zarya. Now in Capture, Hybrid, and Payload, when you're on the attack side, you're of course running with your teammates towards the capture point, you're putting barriers up on yourself and allies to build up your energy, and when you're filled up, you're just trying to kill the enemy. You're either doing it from the up front or from flanking, and just trying to wreck them to get them off the point so you can capture the point yourself. Of course, using Graviton Surge with an ally's ultimate to give them a very bad day, or to keep them off the point when you're about to capture it, just stuff like that. Now when you have the payload, you're either flanking the enemy when you're full on energy and using your beam and your blasts to just hurt the enemy a lot, or you're firing the blast from the payload as you're building up your energy. It really depends on what your energy's at and where you feel safest. Now on the defense side, you're of course defending the point either through the choke point on the point itself, or by flanking the enemy. You're only engaging directly when your energy gets filled up. Besides that, you're just shooting them with the splash bombs. Now you should of course be killing anyone who tries to take the point, and Graviton Surge is good for pulling the enemies off the point and setting up for big combo kills as always. When it comes to payload, all you do is pelt the cart with damage and try to kill them off of it. You shouldn't be directly contesting on it unless there's 1 or 2 enemies only, and you can't Graviton Surge them off the cart because they'll still be kind of close to it, but you can still use it to set up for big death on the enemy team. That's still a thing you can do. Now when it comes to control, this is important. At the starting rush, you should be able to build up your energy fast with barriers. With that energy, you'll be a very deadly force and you should be able to get some kills and make capturing the point very easy. Now if you have the point, you're just defending the point or flanking the enemy on your energy, and then when you don't have the point, you're trying to just take the point, so make sure you're charged up first, and of course as always, Graviton Surge to wipe the enemy team. Tips and tricks with Zarya. First up has to be special options. You can see ally HP with it, so go into the options, set that up because being able to see allies HP allows you to save their lives when bad things happen to them. It's just useful to use, so you should use it. Next up has to do with her HP, and that is she has 200 HP and 200 SP. That's a total of 400, right? Once you lose 200 HP, go and hide. You can regain that 200 SP. You don't need a health pack, just hide for a little bit, and you're good. But something to keep in mind as well, as long as you're not getting hit, you're regenning. It doesn't matter if you're hurting anyone, as long as you're not getting hit. So, when you're going into battle while you're regenning, you can use your barrier to keep that regen going because you're still not getting hurt yet. So that's something you can keep in mind. And since we're talking about barriers, think about your allies. Say an ally gets in a bad situation, maybe McCree does a stun, or maybe Reinhardt hits someone with a charge. You can put the bubble on someone before the charge finishes, it'll kill the bubble, but they don't take any damage, and now you got 50 energy from that. It's a really nice thing to do. Another thing about the barrier is, use the barrier on aggressive allies. If they're being aggressive going into the enemy team, well then you're going to get barrier points for dang sure. And here's something else to keep in mind as mentioned before. You can use barrier to survive the big ults, like D.Va's ultimate or Junkrat's ultimate. You can survive those using the barrier. So use that on you and a teammate, and bam, you both get hit, and then those barriers are gone, and you have 100 energy, so you can wreck everybody. Another tip, just learn to aim the beam. It builds up ult very fast, which is very useful for that Graviton Surge, of course. And another one is splash damage bombs on the way to combat. Just like how Junkrat spams bombs when he runs anywhere, use the same thing with Zarya. If you're not at the fight yet, but you know you can land some shots at the enemy, then do that. It's just a good way to soften the enemy up. And then the last one's how to do with Graviton Surge, and that is just hammering it in. Do it in tandem with other ally ultimates. You can do so much work with this, do that. But something to keep in mind is, Graviton Surge has a lot of counters. Shields can get in the way of it, Mei's wall can get in the way of it, certain heroes can dash out or blast out of it, so there's a lot of things that can be counter to it, but if you fight the right team with it, you're gonna kill everybody. It's just great. In conclusion, Zarya is a great second tank that can save lives and completely destroy an enemy team with proper communication. Just work on those barriers, build up your energy, and you can cause a whole lot of mayhem when you use that Graviton Surge. She takes some work to master, but if you do, your team will get a lot of team kills and a lot of wins. That is definitely a thing for sure when it comes to Zarya. Now, as always, I feel you should share this with your buddies so that they can learn how to play these heroes. The more they know how to play heroes, the better it is for everybody, because then you have stronger teammates, stronger opponents, just a stronger game in general when everyone knows what the hell they're doing. That's what's important to me. Just more people knowing what they're doing. So as always, subscribe as well, because there's going to be more guides coming up. We're going to cover everybody, and we'll go over more specific situations eventually in the future. Now up next is going to be Symmetra. This is a support hero that does not heal, but gives shields. She's really good at stopping a flank. She's really good at just setting up a situation for her team. Symmetra can win games if played correctly, and hopefully it will help you do that. So there you go, that's the guide. I had fun making it, hope you had fun watching it and learning from it, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.